Welcome to the Cool Story Bry podcast. My name is Bryan McConnell, and I am here with one of my good buddies that I met in Jiu Jitsu named Adam.
Hey.
The reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast this week is because just yesterday I had a meeting with Professor Charles, the black belt at our school, and we went over, it was a goal meeting, and we discussed all of the requirements that it would take for me to get my blue belt, because currently I'm a green belt, which is in some schools the same as a white belt. But yeah, he was going over the requirements to get my blue belt, and I had no idea that it took that much. I mean, everything he had asked me that I had known, I have practiced before, but I obviously haven't done 10,000 reps on each of those, you know? And I didn't really notice that it was going to be more self-defense based rather than the sport jiu-jitsu based, because I've been mainly focused on the sports side of things with the competitions and whatnot. But so now we're talking with someone who's already done all of that jazz and is one of my. I hope that none of the other blue belts hear this, because you're my favorite. You're my favorite blue belt out of all of the blue belts at our school. But what was it like getting your blue belt?
It was a pretty big deal. So the school I came from that I started with was in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And our professor was pretty old school. He was a Pedro Sauer black belt, who is about as old school as it gets.
Okay.
And so he promoted pretty slow, typically, slower than a lot of other schools. But in turn, when you got your belt, you knew you were really there. You had really earned it, versus some of the schools. Maybe the person, I don't want to say they wasn't quite ready, but maybe he was a little early, on that end. And there's always that balance. Some schools promote way too late because of maybe competition and stuff. Mm-hmm. But for us, it was a really big deal. And then we had a lot of like the old school stuff that we still did. So a lot of schools still like Shark Tank you when you get any kind of belt promotion. We actually still practice, and it's kind of a controversial thing in jiu-jitsu now, is we practice the belt whipping. So everyone lines up in two lines. You take your gi off and you go bare chest. And then, obviously if you're a woman, you wear your sports bra, but you go down the middle and everyone whips you. And then at the end, you get a choice of being choked or slammed, and everyone picks choked. So you actually get put unconscious.
Okay.
And then they tie your new belt on you.
I actually enjoy getting choked personally.
Well, it's funny because everyone, the whip, people think the choke thing is really barbaric, I think, but the whipping thing is worse because you get whipped and whatever. But when you get choked, I mean, it's the same as any other part of training. You just wait like 2 or 3 more seconds, and then, it's not, you don't have like any kind of panic thing. It's just, I don't say it's relaxing because you're getting choked, but it's really not a problem.
Could you pull the mic down just a little bit?
Sure.
So it's more level with your mouth.
Sure. There you
go. See, that sounds like a lot of fun. We've only done one thing like that at our school that I can remember, and that was when one of the students turned 27, I believe. We threw him 27 times on a mat. So everyone lined up and just took turns throwing him onto a mat 27 times. And I thought that was pretty neat. I guess people are getting more opposed to the idea of initiations and things of that nature and fun traditions because...
Well, if you want to call it hazing, versus tradition, like really in every level of anything, it's kind of being rooted out. The military is getting rules on it. Schools are really biting down on that stuff. So kind of in every aspect of life, people are starting to get rid of some of those, some of those traditions, if you will.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of sad. Actually, in high school, we always did a freshman initiation, and the seniors got to do it to the freshmen. And my freshman class was the first class to not do it, not be able to partake in it, because they just initiated the whole hazing rule into school. And we had a brand new principal that year, Miss Jennings. She was a bitch, and she hated me. But our class was actually very disappointed because we didn't get to get hazed. I mean, it's always fun to go and watch the freshman class running around the town in diapers or whatever it is. And I don't know, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that they're taking that stuff away, because I think that there's a learning experience to some of that stuff. Now, when you say get whipped by a belt, you mean just bare chested and they take
So they would take their belt, fold it in half, and then as you go through, like as you're walking down the line, you get whipped in the front and the back.
Oh my!
So I actually have the video, which I can show you later on, of me walking through the line. And this is after, and you're almost relieved at this point because we would always do we did our belt promotions a lot during seminars. So you've been on the mat for already like 3 hours, and then at the end they would throw people in the middle. You would get shark tanked. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's where you're on the ground, with a set of rules, pass, sweep, submission, and then you get fresh people that keep coming in, and you stay in. So you do that for a long time. You drag everyone in the gym to the other side of the gym and then back, and then you carry everyone in the gym to the other side and the back.
Oh my gosh!
So it took about 30 to 45 minutes to get through all the stuff that you had to do. So by the time it came to the belt whipping, which was only like 20 seconds, that part was kind of easy because you didn't have to do anything. You just had to walk. And then when it came to the choke part, all you did was just stand there.
And I assume this was everyone that had to do this. Everyone that attended the seminar had to partake in all of this, and then they would do the belt promotions at the end. Because
not everyone got when you got promoted. Obviously, you went through all that stuff. You could opt out. I mean, no one was forced to.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing too. Is people confuse some of the social pressure with having to do something. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were all adults. Everyone, living adult lives. If you didn't want to do it, you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, you're paying them.
Exactly.
To whip you.
So, I mean, I can understand a lot of people didn't really want to, like some people were like, man, I really like the school, but I'm not a big fan of that. Now, I would say that nearly everybody came around and they actually ended up enjoying it. But it was definitely daunting to new people. They'd been to the school for 2-3 months. They come to a seminar, they didn't, whatever. And then they see people getting whipped at the belts and getting choked and stuff. And then, a lot of times they gradually grew to appreciate it. And the ones who didn't often ended up not sticking around.
Yeah. It's a way of filtering out the people who are smart.
Yeah, I mean, the motto at our gym was, we had an official one, which was train, belong, evolve. But our unofficial one was live dumb.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's kind of how, that's just kind of how I do things. Cause I was talking with someone, Paul, one of the guys that we train with at school. I was talking to him just briefly.
Coach Paul?
Yes. Yeah. Buff Paul.
Oh, Buff Paul.
Yeah. Buff Paul. I know Hawaiian Paul and Buff Paul. So yeah, this one's Buff Paul, but, him and I were just talking in between drilling, and, I had mentioned to him that, or he had said, I don't have a game plan. It'd be nice if I had a game plan because,
right.
To be honest, his and my game plan, since we both come from like kind of more of a rely on your strengths background.
Right.
Our game plan is to just go in there and just win, do whatever you can to win. Just don't tap, sort of thing. So, yeah, it would be nice to actually put together a game plan, and that's actually one of the other big requirements to getting a blue belt is learning how to chain certain moves together. And I think I'm okay with that from certain positions, but I'm definitely, I guess I'm just getting a little nervous because I don't think I'm ready for a blue belt personally. I haven't been training for 2 years, which is, in my opinion, one of the main requirements to get a blue belt.
I think that's a big misconception. A lot of people put outside rules on things when it comes to belt stuff. They see what other people go through, and people are really big on standard, right? They're like, this is what usually takes people to do. This is what the average person does. But jiu-jitsu is a very individual experience. Oftentimes it takes a while to learn certain things, but there's people who get their blue belt in 8 months.
Yeah.
And once again, too, I mean, you look at other schools, a lot of academies have their own view on belts, right? Like down in Brazil, their blue belt is not a big deal because it's a teen belt to them. Mm-hmm. So their thing is not, getting a blue belt is more just a symbol of being a member of that academy. Like when you're a blue belt there, you're like, okay, you're really a member of our team.
I see.
But there, they take it very seriously being on that team. Like jumping schools is a big deal to them. They actually have a word for it. They call it Crionchi, which is actually a character from an opera, I believe. But it's basically like it's like calling someone Benedict Arnold.
Okay.
Like, so they take it very seriously if they put their time and effort into you, and then you jump teams.
Well, it makes sense because just like you said, you put your time and effort into coaching this kid to get their blue belt, and then they all of a sudden leave and go to another school. Plus,
right. But there's also the argument, and there's some jiu-jitsu professors and websites address this, the balance between, and the argument of loyalty to your team, but also, I mean, at the end of the day here, it's also, you're also the consumer one, right? You're paying for a service, and that person's fulfilling a service. And some people think it's not fair that, you came to a school and you were there for a little while, then you find somewhere new, fits your style more, maybe it's closer to your home, whatever, because that's the school you started at, should that be the one that you have to stay at? No, I'm not saying I advocate for that. I'm just saying that's the argument from the other side.
I see. Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't like the idea of leaving my school because I like it so much, but I also can't imagine being at a school that I wouldn't enjoy. But one of the problems that I do see with jumping ship and going to another school is we sort of have code words and playbooks, basically. Not playbooks literally, but we have code words that we say at certain points in order to initiate a certain action. Mm-hmm. So like one of ours, I won't say what it is, not that anyone from our competitor schools listen to this, but one of them is shoulder of justice. So when coach yells out shoulder of justice, I know exactly what that means. And that's a badass term. And I wouldn't want to leave one school, go to another, and then have them find out what that means. And then they go against one of my old friends from my old school in a competition, and then they know how to prevent their face from getting crossed,
Now, I think on one hand, I think it's individual to individual. I think another thing too is the academy. I mean, our school does a fantastic job of student retention. A lot of schools are lucky if 1 out of 10 students that walks through the door ends up staying more than 6 months. And with our academy, I mean, we've just been growing and growing and growing. I mean, you see 5 people walk through the door, 4 of them are staying, that come all the time. And then one other one, maybe not even the person that quits. They may just come a little less frequently and kind of build up. But I mean, like I said, other schools I've seen, they struggle to get 10% of students to stay. And who knows if they even make it to blue belt, let alone, beyond. But with our academy, we're seeing people that are staying and loving it. And that speaks to the culture of it, right? Like, so I moved out here, right? I moved further away. And now, like, there's other academies that are closer to me here than there is at ours. But I wouldn't want to go somewhere else. Like, I like the way our school is. I like our instruction. I like the training structure, and I enjoy the people. Which, at the end of the day, they're really the people who are going to make you come back. The people you enjoy to see, your your training partners and stuff.
Of course. Yeah. When I said that it should be a requirement to attend for 2 years prior to getting your blue belt, I meant that for me. I feel like that should be my personal requirement, because obviously there's going to be people that are going 5 times a week, and then there's going to be other people who, like you said, are just going when they can.
Your background's a big thing too, right? If you're a collegiate wrestler, or you're a judo black belt, or you did sambo, or it's a big difference between someone who has grappling experience or someone who's just tremendously athletic versus someone any average guy. You get some guy who's he's a 40s-year-old dad who takes his kids to soccer practice, makes it to class once or twice a week. Maybe gets his blue belt in no time. Maybe it takes him a little while, but it's hard to say that guy should be on the same track as some 18-year-old who's coming to class 5 times a week, who wrestled all through high school. And
certainly not. Who was it that said it has something to do with belt and age? So every 10 years of age that they are younger than you is a belt level.
I may be wrong with that. I want to say that might be Salo Ribeiro. I can't remember though. But
it's basically saying, like, if you're a brown belt going against a blue belt, but the blue belt is 20 years younger than you,
right? It's challenging.
It's almost as difficult as going against another brown belt in some cases.
Well, and styles make fights, right? And that doesn't change just because of jiu-jitsu, right? I mean, if they have a great answer to your game, and even if they're a lower belt, but they're 20 years younger, they're way more athletic, they're stronger, they can give you a lot of trouble, certainly.
Oh, yeah. I definitely screwed that up, because weight definitely takes or is a big part of that as well. But anyway, I want to thank you, because when I said that you were my favorite blue belt, obviously I can't play favorites. I'm about to be a father. I'm not allowed to play favorites.
Right.
But I really do enjoy all of the encouragement that you've given me throughout the last few tournaments that I've been a part of. The first tournament that I attended, that I ended up actually, I won't spoil it yet, but it was my second tournament of all, and it was the first tournament that I took home a medal. Right after my first match, I ran to a trash can, and was puking my brains out. And you were there telling me that I did good, I don't give up. And that whole time that I'm sitting there, and how to breathe as well, because that's one of my biggest problems. But the whole time I'm sitting there next to a trash can, which people are always hanging out by trash cans.
Yeah.
It's like people's favorite spot to hang out is next to dumpsters or whatever. But as I'm sitting there trying to catch my breath, the whole time I was thinking that there's no way I could win gold. I just won one match, and in order to win gold that tournament, I had to win 4 more. And I felt like crap. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And then with your encouragement, and then Kristen, my girlfriend, showing up to root me on, that definitely helped. But after the first match, I also made the mistake of not even warming up. I didn't even warm up for that tournament now that I think about it. But yeah, I actually did end up taking home gold, and I was really proud of myself. And after you get gold once, it's kind of easy to do it again. I mean, you kind of, it's starting something and finishing it that is the most difficult. Because once you know that you have the ability to do it, that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest factor holding you back at the beginning is not knowing whether or not you have the ability to do it or not. So,
sir, I mean, confidence can't be spoken enough of. I mean, really, when it comes to anything, that confidence is always a part that they're throwing in. But when it comes to competition, I mean, you have to learn kind of in layers, right? You have to learn, the sport that you're doing and all the things that kind of go with it. But, having a winning mindset, you got to know how to compete, know how to peak yourself, know how to, put those fears aside, learn how to think only about the positive things, narrow your focus. And then when it comes to winning, especially in a tournament style, you have to learn how to climb that ladder. You got to learn what it takes to go through a whole war, stop, reset, reload, and go again. And, until you make it to the top of the mountain, you don't know what the view is like up there.
Yeah.
So you have to learn what it takes to keep going through, keep marching through. And, once you go, you have that route mapped out now. You know the way. It's a hard journey, but you know how to get there, when there's plenty of other guys who have no idea where they're going. They go in there and blow all their energy. They let doubt creep in. They, all the bad things because they don't know the right path to take to success.
Yeah. Because I honestly was thinking about giving up at that moment in time. And I had remembered that on the drive over there, I would look at my odometer, and every mile that my odometer went up, I kept telling myself, you're 1 mile closer to being a champion. And I know that sounds really cheesy. And once again, I'm talking about a white belt division of one competition that took place in Denver, Colorado. I'm not talking like I won worlds or anything.
See, that's the wrong way to look at it, though, because skill level is irrelevant. Competition's competition. Because you could say that about, you right now from where you're at, you look like the brown belt division in that same local tournament, and it's a big deal, right? Like, or in worlds or whatever, those guys are going through the exact same stuff. The same thoughts cross their mind, other than game plan, right? Because their game plan is going to be a little more complex, and they're thinking about stuff. But the same fears of doubt of preparation, the same anxiety of competing in front of people, and having all that hard work, and now you're here and it's come to fruition, and you want to see how it goes. That doesn't change. From the lowest local beginner thing all the way up into the only difference between those guys is experience being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's a good point. And I definitely don't want to downplay it, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm bragging either, because yes, it was just a simple tournament. I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't think I could do it, and I actually ended up doing it. So I feel like that one kid who was telling his dad, when his dad asked him, how do you feel about riding a bike? And he's like, you could do it. Just keep your focus. And I don't know. I just feel like a happy child when I'm trying to inform people that they have more potential than they may believe.
Well, have you ever heard of the 30% rule?
No.
So there's a common rule when it comes to physical exertion and challenges that your body's going to quit. Like, your brain's going to tell you that your body can't go anymore when you've only done about 30% of what your body's capable of doing. So when you see things like special operations teams, Navy SEALs, they preach this a lot too. When you hit that breaking point where you're like, I can't go on anymore, that's right about the part where your body's only done 30% of what it's actually capable of doing.
It's only done 30%, or
you're only 30% of the way. Like, it's only done 30% of what it's capable of doing.
Oh my gosh. So when they say give it 110% and you're giving it 110%, you really have 80% more to go.
Well, you got to remember, I mean, everything in your life is made to be convenient and comfortable, right?
Yeah.
You're doing things on purpose to make things comfortable, right? You're getting yourself to work conveniently. You have a convenient workspace. You know, even if it seems inconvenient at the time, you know, it's all perspective, right? Your convenient is you're not running up a mountain to get to work, you know, all day. It doesn't take you 12 hours of hiking to get to work, you know? So when it comes down to like really seeing what you're capable of doing physically and going through challenges, you hit that part where you're like, man, this is all I'm used to doing, right? I'm at the edge of what I'm used to giving. But your body's like really capable of doing much more than that.
That's pretty cool. I like that. I've never heard the 30% rule before.
Well, and that's why if you talk about, you know, dig deep, keep going, because if you just keep going, you're gonna go way farther than you ever. It's like when people always write books and stories and movies and stuff about somebody digging deep and finding it, but it's there. People think it, you know, they're like, oh, I got it and whatever. But then, you know, when they talk about any boxing movie, what is it? You know, they found it, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they acquired it, they found it. So that's the same thing when people are hitting that part and they're like, I can't go anymore, I'm too tired. I'm like, you can go a lot longer than you think you can. That's
very inspiring stuff. I like it.
Well, it's just the reality. You know, it's not even, you know, like you can do it, you're the best. It's, you know, you just need to learn how to live being uncomfortable, right? Like the first time, you know, as a jiu-jitsu reference, the first time you're in knee on belly. Someone puts a hard knee on belly on you, you're like, I can't breathe. You know, you got to get off me. A lot of people tap to the first knee on belly. They're like, you got to get off me. I can't breathe. But now having done jiu-jitsu for a while, can you breathe when it happens?
Oh, yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
No one said it doesn't suck. It's hard to breathe, but can you breathe? Yeah, you can even talk.
Yeah.
You know, let alone breathe. You can sit there and be fine. You're never going to pass out. But the first time someone gets a hard knee on belly, they're like, oh man, I can't breathe. You got to get off me because I can't breathe. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
It's just because they're new to that situation. They don't understand where they should put their arms and how they should bump out of it and that kind of thing.
Even if you're stuck, you can survive, right? Hickson Gracie used to famously, he would get in carpet, like you would get like things of carpet, and he would roll himself in as tight as he could so it would like kind of compress his chest. Oh, wow. And it made it hard for him to breathe. So he could only take shallow breaths and he would just get comfortable there. And if he can get comfortable being there, and he was the one putting himself there, I mean, any opponent tries to put him in an uncomfortable position, it was like, dude, I'd chill here.
Dang, I'm just thinking of how claustrophobic I used to be back in college and whatnot. One time my buddy and I, we went to an art school, so we were really into film and stuff, and we were recording some pranks that we would do around the dorms. And one of the pranks was I had this huge duffel bag, and I was a lot smaller then. I could actually fit inside of this duffel bag. So they would zip me up inside of this duffel bag and leave me outside of people's doors, and I would reach my arm out and knock and then zip the bag back up. And we were recording all of this. And I remember one time no one was answering. And I remember I started freaking out, not because no one was answering, but I started freaking out because I got that claustrophobic feeling. So I started yelling, Brandon, come open me, get me out of this thing. And later I watched the video, and he was just like trotting. He was like trotting down the hallway to come unzip me from this, what I felt like was a coffin.
Right.
And I just thought it was kind of funny because I was yelling, I was screaming for help, and he's just like casually strolling.
Guy just coming over there. Yeah.
And it's because he knew I'm not gonna die.
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
Well, and that claustrophobic feeling comes in other forms, right? There's like that physical feeling. There's that, you know, that overwhelming feeling some people feel in a crowd, you know, especially when it comes to competition, people feel that same kind of feeling, you know, you get out, especially in combat sports, right? You're out by yourself. It's an individual sport. Mm-hmm. You walk out onto the mat, people are watching you, and you just feel, all of a sudden you feel alone and you feel cut off. It's the same exact kind of feeling. You feel trapped where you are. Just the difference is in a combat sport, there's someone else trying to hurt you.
Yeah. I think that in a combat sport it would actually kind of keep you going because you know that there's this other person that's trying to fight your way whatever, trying to win. And usually by the time you reach competitive level anyway, you've kind of already had a knee on your belly at one point. Well,
and that's why I think it's so cool that we do put an emphasis at our school on self-defense. Because one, I mean, it's at the core, it's a martial art, right? It's a self-defense system.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of silly now, I think, now that you're seeing a lot of sport competitors that are tremendous sport competitors. They have an intimate understanding of complex guard games and passing games, just really great at anatomical, mechanical manipulation, right? But then when it comes to, any kind of self-defense situation, you could get like a purple belt who doesn't know how to win a street fight, right? I mean, they have a better chance than most, but if you get to that level, you should have clear game plans for individual things, right? Like when we practice taking someone down who's trying to punch you. Yeah. Even just the idea of blocking your head. I mean, a lot of people just have this reach out reflex, and it's just a terrible thing to do. And that's why I'm a big fan of Professor Charles talking to you about that for your blue belt, because once you get your blue belt, I think you become like your first like an official representative of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
As a white belt, you can kind of always play it off, right? Like, oh, they're new, they don't whatever. And a blue belt is still very much a beginner, but you've kind of gotten a seal of approval. Like, okay, you were well on your way into the path. You're on the path to learning the art. And so I think that it looks kind of bad if you get a jiu-jitsu blue belt, fight an untrained opponent who is their size, and they get beat up.
Yeah.
Like in unarmed combat, and in other circumstances, not including other people, that person isn't trained, they have a weapon or something. But I think a blue belt should win a fight against an unarmed, untrained person.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the white belt is a lot of fun. Although you're usually getting tapped out and arm barred and stuff. At our school, white belt's a lot of fun because we don't have a lot of purple belts or brown belts. So
yeah, we're a very young academy when it comes to progression in the art.
But I think it's a lot of fun, and I guess one of the reasons why I'm kind of hesitant to want my blue belt. I don't want to say that I don't care about the belt system, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason why I got into this thing, is to get a belt.
No one does. It's a good validation, but
so I feel like a high school kid that's ready to grow up and is just a little I don't want to grow up yet.
Well, you got to remember that when it comes to the belt, everyone I've met is always either I should already have it, and then they finally get it and they're like, oh, about time, or they get it and they don't feel like they deserve it, right? Very rarely do you get it and you're like, this is precisely the time that I deserve this particular belt. So really all you can do is trust in your coaches, trust in your training, and when they put a belt around you, I mean, they know a lot more jiu-jitsu than you do. Yeah. So if they give you a belt, if you think you're undeserving, you're
kind of disrespecting them.
Well, and I don't even put it that far. You're just looking at it from a very small scope when they have a much broader and much more detailed one.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I just which belt do you think is the most fun?
Well, I mean, I'm only a blue belt, but
if you had to guess, I personally think that high stripe blue belt or a low stripe purple belt is the fun zone.
It's a big transition because purple belt, you start to you kind of transition in most schools to teaching yourself. You learn from the professors, but your growth is based, like, you need to take charge of your own responsibility of your own growth. Blue belt, they call it the technique collector. It's kind of fun because you feel a little lost, but it's because you're learning so much. And you finally get a seat at the big boy table and you get to really start learning some of the cool stuff.
I kind of feel like that now, so maybe I am ready for the blue belt. Anyway, we got about a minute left. Do you have anything that you would like to say, or any advice that you'd like to give to maybe people who haven't even trained? Or
get on the mat. It'll be the best thing you'll do for yourself physically and mentally, and you'll meet a lot of cool people. You'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll acquire a cool skill set while you're at it.
Yeah, you see a lot of shirts nowadays of people that people are wearing that say things like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu changed my life and stuff, and it really is true.
It's one of those things. If you don't do it, you don't know, and when you do it, you do know.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for being on the podcast, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
I would love to do this again sometime if you'd be willing.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot.
Follow him in real life.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.